So we are here, and I'm going to now, you guys have been working really hard on trying to create a vector illustration from scratch of a portrait. Now we're going to show you a few shortcuts, which hopefully you'll think are shortcuts at the end. I think generally speaking, this allows you to, the steps that I'm going to show you will allow you to create a really dynamic vector-based portrait. And best of all, it allows you to utilize a little bit of the best of Photoshop as well as the best of Illustrator. So what I've got here is I've got a quick photograph that I took. Please don't use this as a judge of a good composition and or a good photograph to use. So we talked a lot about that. But for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to be using this image. Hopefully you will have captured a little bit more of your identity than I did in this. What we're going to do is I've opened this file up in Photoshop. We're going to do a couple of steps to it to pretty quickly get it ready to go. This first step is optional. Really doesn't matter to me whether or not you do it. But I encourage you to maybe experiment with it, and if it doesn't work out well for you, then that's okay. But we'll go to Image, Adjust, and we want to come all the way down and go to Equalize. And when you do that, you guys can pretty quickly see that it has punched up the brightness. It makes the brights brighter and the darks darker. If it turned your picture into something that was terrible, just hit undo and you are good to go. I'm going to leave mine like this. I think I like how it looks a little bit better. And now we're going to go ahead and use our super amazing built-in select subject feature. So if you've got your, if you correctly photographed yourself against a somewhat neutral background, this should work quite beautifully. And you can see that without me having to do much of anything, I've now selected just myself on this rather cold day, and I have gotten a nice clean selection of my head. We want to keep those edges really, really sharp since we're aiming for vector. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that selection and invert it, select inverse. So we're spinning 2 times up in select. And then we're going to make sure that our background is white and hit delete key. When we hit the delete key with all of the negative space selected, you have the choice between foreground color, background color, all these other ones. I'm just going to hit white. I could also hit background color. And when I do that, I get a nice clean white background. I'm going to go ahead and save this out as a Photoshop document. And so I'll call this, I do want to save it out as a Photoshop. I think that works better. And we'll call this Jeff Face 3. Pay attention to where you are saving it on your computer, whether you're saving it to desktop or downloads or to wherever. Just always good to pay attention to where the heck you're saving your work. I'm going to go ahead and save that out. Fantastic. And then I'm going to go ahead and I've got Illustrator already pulled up. Tab over to Illustrator. And I'm going to create a new document. If your composition lends itself to horizontal, you certainly may do so and create it as a horizontal file. If your composition lends itself to a vertical, then you certainly may choose vertical, whatever works best. And again, we talked a lot about composition and our photographing in class the other day. For this case, I'm going to choose a 12 by 18 inch vertical composition. Again, I could switch it to 18 by 12 should that be the case. We definitely want our color mode to be CMYK so that we can print these. And we want our raster effects to be high at a 300 ppi, pixels per inch. And I'll go ahead and create that. Great, so I've got a nice clean white canvas to work with. I'm going to go ahead and take and do File, Place. we will navigate to my downloads folder where I've got my Jeff Face 3 here, and it'll bring this up. And boy, that's a much, just shows how high resolution my picture is, which is great. In Illustrator, when we scale down here, you do need to hold down the Shift key. You don't have to hold down the Shift key in Photoshop, but you do in Illustrator. That's dumb, but I didn't design the program. It used to be different. So you have to hold down the Shift key and then grab that. Oops. Hold down that. Now, is it going to be stupid? Oh, for Pete's sakes. I got to grab my selection tool. Now hold down the Shift key and drag that in there. Okay. We'll go with something like this. I'm just going to move it off. This is a great opportunity. You can see you've got your artboard here. You can see how I'm going to be cropping this pretty extensively. When you have it the scale and the placement that you want, go ahead and hit double click. And that will set your image, and you are good to go now. All right, so we've already done a lot. We've made a lot of changes to our work. We've already selected it out. We've figured out our composition. We've got our image placed here. Now we want to make sure that we save our work, because anytime you do a lot of work, you want to make sure you save it. I'll go to File, Save. We want to save this out. I'll call it Face 3. Face 3. I'll save it to downloads. I like to save to downloads because I purge my downloads pretty regularly, but you can save it wherever you like so long as you pay attention to it. We can see that it's saved up here because it's got a new name on that tab. Excellent. So now at this point, what we want to do is we want to go through our next step, which is we're going to click on that full image. And we are going to go to, oops, we are going to go to Effect, Artistic, and Cut Out. Now this is super cool, and I hope that you will like this. Once you're in this window, you want to zoom out, fit on screen, so that you can see all of it. And over here on the right hand side, this is our properties that we're going to want to tweak and play around with till we get something we like. Generally speaking, the number of levels deals with the number of colors that you have on your whole screen. So, you know, we could have started off in grayscale and that might simplify things, but it's okay. I'm going to take the number of layers to 6 and just kind of experiment. Okay, that really popped in quite nicely at 6. You don't want to go way up. We don't want to get to 8 or anything like that. We want to keep it a little bit more simplified, 5 or 6. I wouldn't, if you take it all the way down to 4, you can see that the image can start falling apart. I could probably get away with that. 3, that doesn't look too bad. Makes me look really old. So let's try maybe, I think I'm gonna stick with 6. I like it if I have a little bit of different color with the background. That simplifies things. If your face is kind of washed out and it's all white, it will require an extra step down the road, but that's pretty cool. Edge simplicity, we want to try to push that as high as possible without losing our sense of our face. So you can see if we super simplify the edge, I turn into a gelatinous glob. Gelatinous glob. So there's 7 and 6. It's kind of cool. It's still a little bit. 5 works. I like 5. And then edge fidelity, we want to try to keep that. You only have 3 options. You have 1, 2, and 3. And from here, you probably cannot necessarily see the difference. But I'm going to zoom in for a second so you can see the difference. And I need to zoom in by zooming in to 100%. Cool. So edge fidelity deals with how accurate the lines are. And so you can see this edge here is really, really bumpy, that shape. We want to try to simplify that. So I'm going to take that edge fidelity to 2. And you can see it's a whole lot less bumpy. And if you can take it all the way down to 1, do so. If you lose too much, that's okay. It's just making your life a lot easier in the next step of the process. Because you're going to want to, any little rough edges, you're going to probably want to get rid of, at least on your face. On your clothing, you can probably keep it, but on your face, you're going to want to simplify. So I'm going to try, I will say, I like how that captures a little bit more detail of my eye, but that would be just crazy to deal with. I'll go ahead and take it to 1, just to make my work in the next chapter a little bit easier. All right, and I'll go ahead and hit OK at this point. It will progress through the cutout. Excellent. All right, so next step, we need to, next step, I've done this like 8 times and I always forget the next step. Click on Properties tab over here. If you don't see Properties, you will want to go to Window, View Properties. Make sure that's checked. Okay, so Properties. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do Image Trace, which is super duper cool. Actually, no, before we do that, I'm going to try something different here. I'm going to crop this image. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, I'm going to do Image Trace. We'll crop it later. All right, so I'm going to try to go to 6 color. Actually, take that back. Shades of gray. Shades of gray, because we're going to change our color. So now I'm going to click on Shades of gray. It says tracing may proceed slowly, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And now what it is doing is all that hard work. So what we're doing is we're kind of using the powers of Photoshop and Illustrator to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us that we normally would have had to do in our project. So that's looking quite nice at this point. And the last step is I want to hit expand. Boom. And so now what we have got is we have got all of our individual cutouts as objects that we can click on as vector. All right, so we're going to stop there for today. I think the background is one big shape too. Brilliant. That's nice. If you can make that happen where the background is a solid white color against your shape, or a gray if you have a lot of lights on your face and you want the background to be just something where it doesn't just blend in, that will make your life so much easier. So that's it. We'll stop there for today, and then you guys are able, we'll talk about our next step in our next class. Oh gosh, almost forgot. Very important. Save your work as you proceed. There we go. So now we're saved. Now you can stop for the day. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on Thursday.